Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's show. This is Unlocked, and I'm Tracy Wilson, and I'm your host for the next 30 minutes. Look, today we're going to kind of take this show on a completely different tangent. So on Wednesday, if you dialed into my show, I told you that I was going to be doing this, and I'm going to be going on a totally different tangent. And I mentioned that on the show on Wednesday. And to be honest, I've been thinking that this topic was in my head back then, because I saw something online that really, I suppose, has inspired today's conversation. And I have been thinking about this for the last couple of days. It's been playing on my mind. And to be absolutely honest with you, I have thought a couple of times, should I even talk about this? Maybe I shouldn't. And have had conversations with my family even on this particular topic. And in speaking with my 23-year-old son, I was telling him about the topic that I was going to talk about today. And he was like, "Oh, Mum, do you really think that you should be talking about that? You know, you might alienate some people. It might be really controversial. You know, you should think about whether or not you really want to talk about that topic." And of course, that did get my mind turning. And actually, I said to him at that time, "No, I feel like I need to talk about it, because if you don't talk about things, then you don't have an opportunity to help people to move forward or to resolve whatever is going on." So here I am today, and it's been going, like I tell you, this has been happening. Like, it's been in my head for the last couple of days, and I have hummed and hawed, even gone back to my trusty list of topics that I could talk about, and I've even looked on there and thought, should I change the topic? But something tells me that I couldn't even choose one off that list, that I had to talk about it today. So here I am. I'm going to say that some of the this is unscripted completely. When we do these shows live, we have no script with them. So I'm just going to go with what comes. And I want this to be a discussion today. So very, very different to the other shows that you guys have probably listened to. If you're listening on a podcast too, lots of how-tos I usually do. We talk about lots of business topics. Today, this is completely different. And I want this to be more of a discussion with you guys. It's more of a conversation. And I want to actually see you guys typing to me in the chat box, because, like I said, this is a conversation, and it really is partially to help me to understand some stuff too. So I want you guys to help me in doing that. So if you are willing to do that, can you please just let me know in the comments? Let me know that, yep, we're here. We're going to be, we're coming at this from with an open heart, with no judgment. And that, I'm just going to speak some truth, and that's what we're going to do today. That's what today's session is all about. So if you guys are cool with that, please let me know. I feel like I can have this kind of conversation with you guys, because I've seen, particularly inside of our Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life. So for those of you that are watching outside of that group, I would highly recommend that you get yourself into there. Go find us on Facebook, Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life. We talk about all sorts of things relating to business, family and life to help you have thrivability in all three of those. So that's what we do. And we've been doing a gratitude challenge. So partially this is kind of looking at our group and the gratitude challenge that we've been doing. And I want to say how heartwarming it is to actually read every single day, for me to go in there, participate myself, and then also see everybody else participating in there with the things that they are grateful for, and giving gratitude for all sorts of different things in our lives. So today's is a lot about that. And it's really about, like, I'm seeing in our group that we are a group of people who want to see a change in the world, that we want to move forward and we want to make a difference. So I feel really safe in talking with you guys about this here, but I also have my podcast, and also this is being streamed elsewhere. So there are people that are not inside of our Success Secrets group that may not have that same, may not feel the same way. So I want to be extremely respectful of the conversation that I have today, and just knowing that I'm coming, I'm having this conversation with good intention and coming from a good place. So now that I've kind of given you all the precursor and sort of set myself up here, you guys, I don't know if you're aware, but this show being called Unlocked, I don't know if you guys realize this, but each and every episode that you guys are with me, I am unlocking a different part of me every single week. And, we've talked about you get a bit uncomfortable, and you know that when you get uncomfortable that there's like some change and some progress and some development and growth happening. Well, today's show, I do feel a little bit like I feel like that, because I don't normally talk about this sort of stuff. So just go with me. I might go off on a tangent a couple of times because, like I said, these ain't scripted. So change. Let's talk about that firstly. So I'm going to tell you firstly how this whole conversation, or my thought process of the week, has come about, and what actually inspired me to have this conversation. Well, earlier in the week, I saw one of a person that's in my Facebook network. She posted on Facebook, and she asked a question. She asked this question. It won't be verbatim. I'm just going to ad-lib it, but it was something like this. She was reaching out and she was asking, all you parents out there that have black or brown or black skinned children, what adjective do you use to explain to them what color their skin is? And I read it and I was like, huh? I stopped for a minute and I thought about it, and I thought, should I respond to this? And anyway, of course, I responded, and I said, well, and again, I'm going to ad lib here. I've said something to this effect. I said, you know what? I call it skin. I call it what it is. It is skin. I have never, ever had a conversation with my children about the color of their skin. And just so you guys know, yes, I'm very fair-skinned. I am New Zealand Māori descent. So my mum is dark, my grandparents are dark, my husband is dark, my children are dark. This is very relevant to me. So it really made me think as a parent, did I ever have that conversation with my children about the color of their skin? And I was like, nope, never ever did. What? And it made me think, like Risa's saying here, and I agree with you, Risa. She's saying, what difference does it make? And that was exactly the thought process that was going through my head at the time. Why would you ask that? Why does that make a difference? And then I started thinking about, well, why would we even have a conversation like that with our children? And again, my conversation kept going on in my head about, wow, I really am a champion for, differences and standing up for our uniqueness and being, celebrating our differences. But then there's also this, what differences do we celebrate, and which things do we really need to point out? Is the fact that our skin color is different, is that really relevant? When you go and look at the meaning of skin, well, we all have friggin' skin, every one of us who's a human, and most animals have skin, and it's there for a reason. It's a protection mechanism. It protects all of our organs, and that's all it is. So if that's all it is, how do we change? So part of what I want to talk about today is like changing what we want to see in the world, and changing what happens in the world often starts with the conversations that we have. And it starts with the conversations that we have with ourselves. So it starts like on the inside. So, I've got a little bit fancy with these. Let me just get my thing. I got a little bit fancy with these. And it's like this. Change starts within. Look, I've even got to go here. Change starts, within. It starts from within us and the conversations that we have with ourselves. So if that is the case, and we constantly are working on ourselves, and we want to see this change in an external world, we have to think about, how do we change the narrative that we are speaking for ourselves, and then also the narrative that we're speaking with our children, because the change starts at home, and then we have this ripple effect. It then starts with the people who are around us, the people who are closest to us, the people who are looking up to us. So it's our children and our grandchildren and our nieces and our nephews. And in my culture, I'm just going to tell you that, we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. So not only is it that, the mum and dad are hugely influential on that child, it's also the rest of the family. And particularly when you come from a really big family, they can be a huge, huge influence. But the change starts within, and then it starts with what happens in our home. And then it starts with what happens, or the narratives that we speak when we're speaking with our friends and our wider family. So it was just, I suppose, the what I'm asking you guys to do is just to think about that today. And I stopped and really thought about that for a moment. I thought about, should I talk about this? Is it a controversial topic? It's only a controversial topic if we make it one, if the receiver receives it in that way. And sometimes, yes, the people who are speaking the words might be making it that, or might be coming at it from an angle without, pure love and just wanting to share and starting a conversation about it. But I felt so compelled to kind of point that out today. And no judgment on her. I'm so glad that she asked the question, because it really, really made me think about it. It made me think about, what do I speak to my children about? I made me think about, the words that I use. So I'm just going to have a look, because there's like a bunch of conversation going on in the chat over here. So I just want to have a look at, because I've said that I wanted to get you guys in on this conversation. So Karen's saying, the need to ask the question speaks volume about the person that asked the question and anyone who would ask it. That in itself, I'm really glad that you've said that, Karen. And again, like I said, I've thought a lot about this. And in terms of like judgment, I mean, I know this person really well, and I know that she was actually asking it for a project that she's working on. So isn't it interesting how when I have shared that, how our immediate thought is that we go into like the space of, well, maybe she didn't have enough information. Maybe she, was her thought process wasn't right. Maybe she was asking it because she was, we use the R word. It was actually none of that. She's actually was asking the question for some research that she was doing. So, that was a really, the fact that I'm talking about this now just points out the fact that sometimes when people ask questions, we start thinking about, well, why did she ask that question? Is she asking that question because of when we start putting our own kind of beliefs, we layer them over the top of why somebody had asked a question. And then when you start delving a little bit deeper, and this is something I've been doing recently, and even with my husband when we have conversations, it's like, well, why would they think that? Why have they, what else could be going on as to why they would have said a certain thing? And it's like you play this game where you come up with like 7 different reasons as to why they might have thought or be saying a particular thing. And quite often that actually helps you to change your level of judgment and where you're coming from. So I just find this is like super fascinating, and particularly when we can have a conversation about it. I'm just going to pull this up too. So Donald Gifford saying, I had to one day, but not because I chose to. I was forced to, because my son came home crying because he was a new kid at school, and they were calling him derogatory names. He had never heard those words before, and he was devastated. I mean, there is instances like that we have to talk about that, which reminds me, I was talking to my son, again, this 23-year-old, and I talk to him a lot because he lives at home with us still. And I said to him, he does have dark skin. Do you ever experience, that because of experience racism because of the color of your skin? And I'd never asked him that question before, but have been doing so because I've been seeing a lot of things on social media and the things that have been going on, particularly in America. And he said, "Oh, Mum, every day." And I was shocked. So, what do you mean every day? He said, "Yeah, every single day I do." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because when I pull up to a petrol station, to a service station to fill my car up with fuel, I pull up and I get out of my car and I pull the Bowser out and I go to put it in, and it doesn't work." I'm like, "What do you mean it doesn't work?" He says, "It doesn't work. I have to stand there and wave my hands to the forecourt attendant to get them to turn the Bowser on so I can fill my car up." And I was like, "Are you for real?" I have never experienced that, and that obviously, is all of this in play, and I'm not naive to know that doesn't happen. But for me, being very fair skinned, I haven't personally experienced that, but my son has. So this stuff is, definitely it's going on everywhere. The conversation today, I suppose, is to try and get us to think about the conversations that we have. How do we tackle this? How do we start to make a change in the world? How do we start to make a change with the narrative that we're saying? And I'm of firm belief that it starts like at home. It starts with us talking about this, and little by little, we will see a change. It's even been to the point where it's like, I was sitting here just before the show going, wow, man, this is like, it can be completely overwhelming because it is so huge. I mean, I watched it, 3 different videos on Facebook this week of injustice, of a young girl she would have been no more than 14 years old, being beaten by a police officer who was taking her into custody. It nearly made me vomit and want to cry. I just cannot believe that sort of stuff is going on, but yet it is. So, us having, and I've got people here saying, yes, I've lived this topic. I've lived what is going on. And I want us to, we've got 2,000 strong people inside of our Success Secrets for Family, Business, and Life. And my belief is that you can't be super successful in business if we don't have balance across all of them. It starts with our lives and our families, and then we get to really experience what real success in business is, because you can't, to me, they all meld in together. So this whole melting pot of what's going on and the enormity of it all, and also seeing a young girl being sold off at 10 years old to a 64-year-old man to marry him, just all these things that are going on. How do we make that change? And so the conversation that I want to have today is like us knowing that the change starts from within, that we have to be strong enough and have the courage to speak about what we believe in, speak about how we can rally a group of people together and start a movement to help other people who, for no fault of their own, have been born into, brought up in environments that are less than desirable. So anyway, it's like I said, these conversations are not scripted. So I'm just kind of talking from the heart here, talking about the things that I've seen and how I think that the people who are watching or who are going to be watching this show, who will be watching the podcast, all this conversation today is to get us to stop, to think about what we say, how we say things, because like I said, the change starts with us. So here, I'm just going to put this up too. So Few Chan, she's saying, me too. Many experiences have made me become stronger. Absolutely, and although I am, I'm fair-skinned, and I'm a Indigenous Māori of New Zealand and super proud to be one. Growing up, I wanted to learn the Māori language, and I would go to classes and I would be the little white girl in the class who couldn't say the words properly. And it got to a point where I didn't want to go back anymore because I was embarrassed to go. So now, thankfully, I have family members whom are really good at speaking te reo Māori, and I can learn from them. But I just, these conversations are stuff that we need to be having with our children at home, being kind, being, not having hatred in our hearts, being accepting of other people, taking on board other people's opinions without getting offended by them, and knowing that we are the ones that have control of that. We are the ones who, you can either take on board what somebody says and be offended by it, or you can take it on board and just go, that's an interesting way to look at it, and simmer on it and think about how that, think about things from a different perspective, not to steal Scott Stevens' catchphrases, but, looking at things from another perspective. That's exactly what we often need to do. So anyway, interested. What do you guys think of this conversation? I want to know what experience have you had? What do you think we need to do to make this change in the world? What is your opinion on this? I'm really interested to know. So I'm just going to wait a minute. I'm going to pull up some other things on the screen, and I'm going to keep an eye on the chat box and just see what you guys have to say. So here's what I've said here. I want to say, if we want the world to be a better place for the next generations, then we must change the narrative. we must change the narrative. If we do not, and we continue to perpetuate the things that have been done over and over and over again, then we are going to continue to have the same thing or worse. And this comes down to, a lot of this is about forgiveness. So it's being able to forgive what has gone on in the past. It's being able to give those who have done bad against us in the past. It's being able to, and when you give forgiveness to people and you're able to forgive, it will enable you to open new doors and move forward with a sense of it's like freedom. It's like taking the burden off ourselves. So I just, these are little quotables that I put up on the screens, because the part of the show that I do really think about is just some of the quotes that I want to utilize and talk about in the show, so that you guys can, you can also use them yourselves. So I'm just going to jump back to the comments, and I'm just going to have a look. What have we got going on here? So just here. All right. So I've got a Facebook user here just saying, it's interesting to think that in the future, my partner is from New Zealand, Māori descent, and I'm a white European descent. Depending on the color of your skin, which conversation I will be having with my kids. Why should the conversation be different? Skin is skin, and we are all humans. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And we need to somehow get away from the color of our skin. People, it is skin. It's there for a reason. And that is to protect us. Right, so we've got here, my children's mother is a beautiful human being. She is Jamaican of African, Welsh, English, German, Jewish, Chinese. She pulls native indigenous blood from the Caribbean and the Tino bloodlines. With both of our blood, they are almost everything, and they are beautiful human beings as I've raised them to be. I absolutely love that, and I know, Donnie Gifford, that's just, because you're a beautiful human being and that's just what you do. What do we got here? Outside of being kind to one another, this really shouldn't be a difficult conversation to have. One generation can have it all for a long time to come. Thank you, Scott. I agree with you too. It shouldn't be a difficult conversation to have. But I'm also seeing that, we're getting so PC, politically correct, trying to be and not stand on anybody's toes. I mean, to the point where we are changing, the names of lollies and, sweets, I think you guys call them in America. We call them lollies here in Australia and New Zealand. But, lollies and kids stuff. It's like, I had a gollywog doll when I was a little girl. As a little girl, I had no idea of the history of that, but I love that thing and used to sleep with it. And until somebody points out, till an adult comes along and says, well, that thing has, negative connotations to it. You shouldn't have that anymore. A little girl doesn't know that. So, anyway, I'm just wanted to talk about this in an open forum, unlocked with vulnerabilities and all, and just be the champion and allow you guys to see that, hey, I'm practicing what I preach. I am working towards every single day of trying to unlock different pieces of me so that I feel comfortable in talking about this, because I can tell you, once upon a time, there is no way in the world I would have jumped on something live like this and had this type of conversation. So Donnie Gifford is saying, yes, forgiveness, it empowers you to take your power back. Absolutely, it does. I'm just going to quickly flick through some of these because I've got loads of comments coming in and I'm just trying to keep up with them all. So Few Chan is saying here, we are spreading kindness every day at home, on social media, and in my community to strangers. That's because, again, Few Chan, you are a beautiful human being too that does all of that and more. So Facebook user here is saying, kids are innocent. They are born innocent. It starts from home and within the community and society, and that's where the change needs to begin. Here, absolutely. All right, guys, so it's an interesting conversation to have. I wanted to bring it to the forefront. And like I said, I had, kind of TikTok between shouldn't I have this conversation. I wanted it to be extremely respectful, and it was just designed to be a conversation and a discussion and a moment for us to think about, how we judge others How do we spread kindness? How do we make a change in the world? What is it that we need to do? So if we want to see change, we have to be the people that start the ripple effect. Start it inside, start it at home, and then that ripple effect will continue to, slowly but surely make its way around the world. So for today, I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with the world is a better place with you in it. We all love to hear the fact that somebody thinks that the world is a better place because we are here. Now, if that is the case, we now need to go away and we need to make the world a better place. So I'm going to leave us on that note today. And I want to thank you all for joining in on the discussion. Next week, we'll do I've got a few guests on with me. We'll be back to sharing some stuff around business. But from time to time, we will just have these various different topics. If you want me to speak about something, or you want to just have a discussion on a show and you want to be highlighted and shouted out, then I would recommend that you go to our Metadime digitalcode.com website. On that website, find the link that says the Unlock Show. On there is a place that you can scroll down and you can actually send me a voice message and ask me to speak about something on the show. So if you would like me to do that, whether it is related to business, whether it's related to family or life, get yourself on there, ask me the question, and I will make sure that I schedule it as one of the show topics so that we can either help you move forward in business, family, or life. So thanks so much for being here with me today. Go away, make the world a better place by spreading kindness and doing good with everything that you do, and live your life unlocked. And I'll see you guys back here again next week. Thanks very much. Have a great weekend. Bye.